It's tournament season at First, and the next big one at Gulfstream and ExpressBet is the Ultimate Betting Challenge this Saturday, March the 2nd. The Ultimate Betting Challenge features every race at Gulfstream Park on Fountain of Youth Day. Buy in for $6,000, $5,000 live bankroll, and compete against players from around the country for massive cash prizes and NHC seats. First will seed 4 NHC seats to the prize pool, and all cash entry fees will be distributed back as prizes. At 150 players, that's $150,000 in cash prizes, plus those 4 NHC seats. Play in the UBC on site at Gulfstream or jump in online with ExpressBet. Head on over to expressbet.com/tournaments for more information and to register to play. Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at race number 10 at Santa Anita on Sunday. Fillies and mares going a mile on the turf in the Grade 2 Buena Vista. Let's take a look at this field. It's a full field, but Ruby Nell might be the horse to beat. She's looked really, really good for Richard Mandella, whether it's sprinting or going long, using versatility. She can go to the lead. She can sit off of a horse in second, and a mile just looks like it hits her right between the eyes.
She just left California, went to Gulfstream and raced very well behind the likes of Didia, and surprisingly. So I think she returns to kind of her home court. And as you mentioned, she's got a lot that goes for her. She can close from off of it. She can kind of catch a flyer early on and try to, hold on. And she's been able to do that. So she's very, very talented, a really nice 4-year-old filly. But I think there's several others in here that they're sneaky. I think Be Your Best has some, upside. Bella Bell. Look how she raced off a long layoff. Can she take a step forward? Will she bounce? I don't know, but this is a really nice rendition of this race.
The 11, Mufi, also a strong contender, removing blinkers for trainer Jonathan Thomas. We'll take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race. Ruby Nell's going to be close. I'm not sure she'll make the lead simply because the 5, Kissed by Fire, is a stretch-out sprinter that's pretty quick, but maybe Kissed by Fire just provides a nice target for Ruby Nell to track.
Yeah, and you know what? Kissed by Fire had a little bit of a target for briefly last time out and then went to the lead. But I'm curious to see if she kind of presses her throughout or sits just off of her, what that ends up doing for her. Because, hey, she is speedy as well. And I think she's shown some really nice, talent in the past in some of her races. So I do think the pace, though, overall, it should be pretty quick.
And that could set things up for a horse like the 3, Lucky Girl. Note the LP designation over her chicklet. That means she has the fastest Timeform US late pace rating. The number 1, Be Your Best, is going to make her seasonal debut. She was on the lead in her most recent start. That was the Grade 1 American Oaks, and she ran pretty well that day to be second. Be Your Best. This was a nice performance for her because when you think of Be Your Best, you think of a filly who likes to rate from off of the pace.
And she was quite forward. And, for her, it was a little bit of a turnaround off her last 3. Look at her races at Del Mar. Then they took her to New York, and then they took her back out to California. She gets beat by Anisette, who is probably one of my favorite horses from last year in California in terms of watching her run style, because typically she's flying late and picks up pieces or is able to get the job done. And Be Your Best showed a little bit of her old signs of life on the racetrack. I think there's a lot of talent there, and I think she's intriguing. We're talking about a race that was at 1.25 miles, and now they're going to start her off for her 4-year-old season at 1 mile. I find that really intriguing.
She's run well fresh in the past, and again, I think she's going to take back, might get the right setup, and make one run. The number 2 is 30 Carats, who scored last time out a first-level allowance race, and she's taking a big step up in class, but she showed good tactical speed in this race. You see everybody's pretty bunched up, turning for home, and 30 Carats is going to grind this out, going a mile. Big class quiz, however.
It is, but her last 3 efforts, even 4, have been really good, and I like that. She's gotten different trips. Even that 4th place finish 2 starts back. I know the level of competition is nothing near this field, but I think it's a good effort. I think she's a little bit of adjustable, but maybe we'll see what she can do here. For me, that's probably what I would do as a wagerer, right? I'm going to look at what she can do and maybe assess her next time out, but they must have some confidence putting her in this Grade 2.
Lucky Girl has had a lot of success going a mile on the turf at Santa Anita. She scored a restricted stake 2 starts back. The issue is she was handled by closing remarks in both the Goldacova and the Yellow Ribbon. So she does have to prove she's kind of a graded stakes type. It is interesting to see her with the fastest Timeform US late pace rating.
It is interesting. I just feel like she's either there, Dan, or she's nowhere to be found, right? And the kind of her record shows that. She has those 3 wins and just 1 third-place finish from those 15 starts. And the thing that I can't figure out about her, too, is, we haven't seen her much. We saw her 4 times last year, the year before that 7 times, but there were some breaks in between her races. I am not sure how she's going to run. Her last 4 starts that we saw, she's closing from way far off of it. In the past, though, she's been really keen and fired up early on, and now off the layoff. Which version will we get? Probably the closing type, but you never know.
There are many tactical horses in this race, and our next entrant is one of them. The 4 Bella Bell, the recipient of just a wonderful training job by Phil D'Amato, scoring off over a year layoff in a graded stakes race at Santa Anita. This is the megahertz. She went to the lead in here. She stays strong all the way down to the wire. It looks like she's back.
It certainly does. And that's not an easy task for any level of horse, right? It doesn't matter if we're talking about claiming horses or stakes horses. To race back and win off a long layoff is tough. They put her in a great event, which for her, it was a grade 3. It was lesser competition than she had faced in the past, but she still won it. She won it on the front end. That's different from her running style as well. So the one concern you might have is, does she bounce off such a big effort? Did that take something out of her? But they've been working her. She's had those 2 works since that race. They've both been good times in terms of respectable times. And I think, this is like a next step up from her. You can't forget. I mean, she was 3rd in a grade 1 and she was 2nd in a grade 1. So we know the talent's there. And I think she could be very tough in this field.
Kissed by Fire, the number 5, went right through her conditions for trainer Peter Urton with 3 consecutive victories. She stepped up in class last time out in the Las Ciénegas, and for a second going down the hill, it looked like she was going to be content to sit off a horse, and then she just blasted to the lead through a second quarter in sub 22. She understandably got tired late, so now she's going to have to go a longer distance with other tactically inclined horses around her. Distance is a big question.
It is a big question. You look at the way that she's won some of these sprints, though, it's been pretty easy, and she's getting a little bit older. Can she learn to kind of slow things down a little bit? If she gets forward and say it's her and Ruby Nell, can they at least go fractions where she could at least get a piece and hang on? It's still a tough task to go from 6.5 on a downhill to this distance of a mile, but she's been really consistent, and her numbers, they're not far off the best horses in this race.
Ruby Nell's already a graded stakes winner over course and distance. Here's her most recent start, the Pegasus World Cup, where she took on the extremely talented Didier. You see her, she set the pocket here on the backstretch, and that's usually a pretty good trip. We're going to see her try to get out right now. She's going to have to force her way. She's still over in behind horses. All in all, I think she ran really well to be 3rd.
I think so too. And this is her kind of first time really shipping, right? We look at down the page and you see a lot of California, and she had to ship for a race. And Didia is such a nice turf mare. I've become a really big fan of hers. And, it was different. In the Lady Shamrock, she made the lead. In some of these races, we go back to the Autumn Miss. She pulled like a Goliath, right? But on the turf, she's so far in front of everyone. She tried to play catch me if you can. No one could. So I think her versatility it really speaks to her quality too, in terms of what sort of racehorse she is. And I think that race, she probably got a lot out of at Gulfstream.
Justique is the number 7. She hasn't won since her 2-year-old campaign, but she's come close in recent turf outings. The problem is, it seems like horses like Ruby Nell and Bella Bell have her number. You know that this time around, I think Justique's going to be very content to sit at the back of the pack and make one run. That was the style that worked well for her as a 2-year-old. It's nice to know that she does have it in her holster to be closer if necessary.
And, in her case, at least her turf numbers, they're a little bit better than her dirt numbers at this point in her career. It's interesting to me that they're going to keep her on the turf and maybe not try the dirt again. Maybe she's just getting better, and maybe that's something they'll do down the road. But I agree. I think those other horses have just been able to best her several times in a row. And, that says a lot, Dan. I know you're a big fan of Justique and you've backed her in some of the races, but it's tough to endorse a horse like this when you see competitors that she has to face once again. She's going to have to try to beat him, and she hasn't been able to do so until this point.
The number 8 is Millionaire Closing Remarks, who was 3rd in this race the last 2 seasons. Her last race, on the face of it, looks disappointing. It was the megahertz, but remember, she was wired that day by Bella Bell. It was her first race off of a lengthy layoff. I'm willing to be a little bit forgiving, and I thought the Matriarch, her final start of 2023, was a pretty good effort because she had some traffic issues.
She did. She did have a ton of traffic issues in there. She only misses by 2 lengths. It's a grade 1. This should be, softer competition. We know how good the Matriarch was last year. And I could probably make a couple cases for her in the megahertz. And to me, she just never made a move. So maybe it was a starting point. They're going to put her in this race. To me, that means that Carla Gaines thinks that maybe something went amiss, or she's ready to kind of roll second off the layoff. And The one thing I will say is I do like her at the mile. I know she's won at longer distances, but I actually really like her at this mile distance.
The 9 Lakota Spirit, you can understand why D'Amato tried her at a mile and a half last time out. Heck, she ran well going a mile and a quarter, 2 starts back. And if she ran well at the marathon, well, it would have opened up a lot of avenues. But maybe she's just better at middle distances because we saw 3 starts back, a nice win in a first level allowance. I have a feeling she's a little bit of a sleeper. I would need more than 6-1 against this tough field, though.
I would too, just knowing that, she was second in the grade 3. Prior to that, she was winning lesser levels of competition. But I do think she's probably a horse. Mile to a mile and an eighth is probably her strong suit. She's done well at those distances. And to me, I think she's going to be tactical here in the sense that could she sit 4th or 5th early on and try to make a late run? I think that's really potential, kind of the setup that we'll see from her in Kazushi.
It's been close but no cigar for the 10 Nadette since she was imported from her native France. She ran an okay 4th last time out in the megahertz, again wired by Bella Bell. Maybe she was a little bit pace compromised in that race. Could get a better setup here for her 3rd start off a short layoff.
I'd have a tough time backing her as someone that has in the past, just knowing she's going to roll late, but it doesn't matter. They've tried her on the downhill. They've stretched her back out. It's very similar in terms of where she finished and how much she was beaten by. So I do have some concerns that she's not going to get what she needs. I think at a mile, she needs a pace meltdown. And the fillies and mares that are in here that have that early foot, they can go pretty quick and they can go the mile distance. So I think that works against a horse like Nadette.
Completing the field's the talented Mufi, who looked very good winning at Ellis Park last year. I really liked that performance, going a mile and a 16th. Last time out, she wanted to go early. Bella Bell beat her to the lead, and then in behind horses, she was fighting Kazushi Kimura going into the first turn. She eventually settled down. She ran well for second. I think it's a good sign they're taking the blinkers off, and this time around, let the speeds go. There'll be a much faster pace she could tuck in from the outside post.
Yeah, the blinker is off. She should be able to relax and get into a nice rhythm early on. And I think Frankie will have kind of options of where he wants her. She could be a little bit more forward, but I think she's going to sit pretty far off of it and just try to make a late run. And you look at her races. To me, Jonathan Thomas has been really selective of where he's running her and is looking for those perfect spots for her. They've decided now to keep her out at Santa Anita after that last performance. So I like what we've seen from her. And 5-1. I don't know if I would take 5-1. I'd want maybe 6 or 7-1, a little bit better of a price on her, but she's done really nothing wrong.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Buena Vista. You're going with Bella Bell, just a likable performance off a long layoff. She might even be tighter for this, and she doesn't need the lead. And she showed a lot of ability before the break.
She did. I mean, she was in really deep levels of competition. We talk about the race at Keeneland and those races at Del Mar. I alluded to it earlier, though, the one knock. She could regress here. I mean, that race could have taken a lot out of her, but I think with these connections, I think knowing that they were confident to bring her back in that spot and she's now back in the entry box, that gives me confidence to use her on top.
I think we both agree that Ruby Nell, the number 6, is the horse to beat. I'm looking for a price. Kissed by Fire. I like the way she won her sprint races leading up to her most recent start. And I just think she went too fast in the middle portion last time. Maybe some of these jockeys will be eyeballing everybody else but Kissed by Fire. And maybe she could sort of spurt clear turning into the stretch at a price. 4-6-1-8 for Ashley, 5-6-11-8 for me. It's a really nice card at Santa Anita on Sunday. We'll finish things up with the Buena Vista. Good luck.